And welcome back. And we're moving into our second segment for this morning, Public Sector Workers Trust, as we will be updated on the progress as we speak. Now, in with us to tell us more about it, we've got Dr. Philip Castillo, who is mutually agreed trustee for the Public Sector Workers Trust. We also have the president of the BNTU, Elena Smith, who is in with us, and Gerald Henry Jr., who is the president, newly elected president of the Public Service Union. Guys, good morning. It's so nice to have you in, and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you.
Now, first order of duty is Public Sector Workers Trust. How did we get here? Can we have a quick historical account of where we came from?
It started around 1994. The government was having challenges paying increments for public officers. In fact, if you look at government's budget, salaries and emoluments is the single largest component of government's budget. And every year it increases around $2 million because that's the quantum of increments. In 94, the government was having challenges meeting these increments. So what the government did, the government gave shares in BTL to the unions in lieu of increments. And the dividends from these shares were to fund projects to benefit public servants. So basically, that is the genesis of the Public Sector Workers Trust. The shares from these dividends were to be used to generate projects to benefit public officers.
Who are part of the Public Sector Workers Trust?
Good. Now, initially, at the time, obviously, all public servants who earn increments should have been beneficiaries. The challenge, though, was that it took a long while to actually establish the trust. The trust wasn't established until 2013 or 2014. So in that interim, obviously, the members of the trust, the beneficiaries changed in that interim. No, the trust was started in 2013 thereabouts, and it was sued in 2014 thereabouts. We were sued because the lawsuit alleges at the time the union's perspective was that the beneficiaries were all public officers, but they all had changed. They all had changed from 1995 to 2013. Those numbers had changed. So it went to court, and the unions lost in that regard because the judge ruled that the beneficiaries are the 1995-1997 cohort who lost increments. What the unions won was that the beneficiaries wanted cash, they wanted money. And the judge ruled that the monies are for projects, and that's where we are today.
It was always the thinking that those persons who were the ones who lost, that those were the ones being compensated for the loss. I think it's important for us to remind the public that at that time, when the government could not pay these increments, the unions, through negotiations, agreed that, you know what, in good faith, we would work with the government. And so we realized that they cannot pay, and so in lieu of that, then we would accept these shares. So really and truly, it was them, because of our agreement to give up on the increment, because we knew that they could not afford it, that those shares were given to the unions. And we want to make it very clear, they were given to the unions in trust for those persons who had lost their increments. So it wasn't that it was given to another group of persons. It is important to note as well that the persons today who are the ones who made the lawsuit, the claimants as we refer to them, those persons were members of the unions back then. A few of them were even executive members, and so they were a part of, or they would have known about that process that we had to go through to get those shares from government.
So the main point that has basically come across is that although there has been, by virtue of the court order, a limitation of the beneficiaries, the point of the trust itself from the very start was never a money trust. It wasn't something that you can pull actual money from. It was always intended to do projects for the benefit of the persons who were disenfranchised by what happened during that time.
Correct.
Well, that is how we interpret it. We acknowledge and realize that other persons may interpret it differently. But we see as an analogy the Baron Bliss Trust Fund. Baron Bliss gave monies to Belize to do projects to benefit Belizeans. You can't come and say, you're a Belizean, give me my portion of that. doesn't work that way. Now the Belize Trust Fund has benefited all Belizeans. If you have visited a market in any district town, the Belize Trust Fund built that. The Bliss Institute, the School of Nursing, if you benefit from the services of any nurse in this country, again, that's a project that the Belize Trust Fund funded. And same like us, the trust, that trust was sued also, and they won the lawsuit. And so we see as an analogy that same kind of thing, whereby monies were given for projects, and our perspective, or the union's perspective, is that the funds should be used to finance projects. We acknowledge that other people think differently.
But it's more than perspective, because remember now the court made a ruling, and the court, in its ruling, determined that it is for projects. And so the way the trust operates, it should be for a long period of time. For that reason, it cannot be that if the trust is to last for 50 years, giving out monies would not meet at 50 years. So the two don't go together. Hence the reason the court in its judgment, in its wisdom, decided that the original reason for giving the shares was for projects, and so we will uphold that purpose. And so the court then has made that judgment. So despite the fact that others have a different view, that is what the court made a ruling on.
And part of the reason for the different view is that the judgment also mentioned compensation. So people see that as reimbursing them, giving them money. Compensation is interpreted to mean money, and that forms the genesis of the dispute. And why we are here now as we speak is that some beneficiaries have recently been circulating a consent form. I'm not certain if you guys are aware of that, but basically what the consent form is, it acknowledges that they are a beneficiary and that they want monies to be given to them from the trust. And that is the consent form that is being circulated. We sent out a press release, I think, 2 weeks ago, to counter that, because our view remains that the trust, the funds are not for individualized distribution. But some people still want that. They still have that view that money should be given individually.
For me, it sounds something like an internal battle whereby we, a group of us, we're not getting where this is coming from, and we want money, when a group of us are saying, you know what, we can benefit from this long term. So where are we now with this battle? Because it seems like it's here and it's here. What's going on right now as we speak?
I think one of the important things for us to mention is our view and our belief that this matter of this division and persons wanting to get cash as a part of the project that they think, the way it should go. It is not just that these persons are pushing to get cash. There's something bigger than that. And we believe that there is political clout behind this group of people who are doing these things. And for that reason, there is this, it seems as if though they prefer to break up the trust. Because when we divide out of these funds, if that is what they want, and they have their way, and those funds are divided, then it means that the trust is going to be dissolved. And so what happens to those persons who want to go by the court ruling and want to see projects, want long-term benefits out of this trust? They are going to be disenfranchised because they will not be able to benefit from those projects that they want to benefit from, because this group of persons or this group of people want to have cash given to them. So
let's try to do a buying process here while we have you here. What are some of the projects, or what's the benefit right now that we can, Myanmar, we want free money. We need free money, and that's what we want. But at the same time, you're saying, you know what? It's best that we do some programs, and you could benefit long term. If you're supposed to get money, you only get $250. Where are you going with that? So what are some of the projects that we're talking about here, so we can get this buying process going on?
Well, one of them that we were discussing was pharmaceuticals, where we would get in touch with the various pharmacies around the country and see if we could get the discount on purchases for those who are benefiting, no? Who are supposed to benefit. In that way, because this is an older group, right? Myself, I'm one of the beneficiaries,
Okay.
right? And I'm 46 years old now, right? And so you have some of them who have already retired, right? And so they're getting into that category as well, that they would start to need more medicines and so on to for health issues, right? And so that was one of the angles that we were looking at,
Okay.
right? But they are also free to submit their projects, right? If they have something that they have in mind that could benefit, of course it would have to be the majority or all beneficiaries, right? Another one could be with groceries, right? Everyone needs to eat,
Yeah.
and so we could get in touch with different supermarkets, right? The main supermarkets around the country, of course, because the beneficiaries are all around the
They're spread
country.
across the country,
Right,
yes.
exactly, right? And so we could do that and work same thing with them, where they would get discount prices, right? And we need to eat every day,
Yeah.
right? And so that would be benefiting them on a daily basis.
On a daily basis,
Yeah.
but would it be a long term whereby if I am eligible for $250, let's say, all right, I'm eligible for $250.
Right.
I need pharmaceuticals. I buy into the program and say, you know what? Yes, I'll drop the $250 and I'll just go with pharmaceuticals, or I'll go with the groceries. Just $250 worth I want to get, or is it a long term whereby when I need my groceries or when I need my pharmaceuticals, up to my lifespan, am I able to do that? This is a part of the buying process.
Right, and that's where the project with regards to the loans that come in, right? That the trust was giving loans, right? And because in that way the trust can make back generate some funds for it to survive, right? The 50 years has been projected, no, that it should last. But right now, as it is, we are not able to give any loans, and so the fund is just losing money.
Yeah.
And these people don't realize that all of these court judgments and so on, court cases and so on, are costing the funds. It's costing the fund, and so money is coming out. Their own money, they don't realize that they are short. They are making themselves short right now in terms of what they could get, right? Because the fund has to pay the lawyer fees.
Yeah.
Right. So
One other thing I think that, sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
that we need to remind of as well is that the trustees and the group that were entrusted with administering and overseeing the trust had hired a project manager.
That's right.
That project manager was hired precisely for this purpose, because we had projects that we wanted to carry out, but we wanted to have somebody who is versed in that sort of thing to be able to assist us in doing a good job of putting projects together.
Yeah.
We hired the person. Was it like by the time the person was supposed to be hired and was given the contract and the person was supposed to be reporting to work, we were taken to court. So the trust then could not continue with anything because we were then in court. So everything had to be put on pause. That person could not be with us because how would we pay that person? We were not doing any projects, and so we lost that person. It could have cost the trust a lot of money because that person was already given a contract, and so then we would have to pay out that contract. Luckily for us, the person was understanding and said, you know what, it's a court case, it's not your fault, and so we were not.
But
there's no cost to us.
what I'm also getting at, guys, is that we seem to, or the PSWT continues to lose court cases. And so if we're trying to have this buy-in process, it seems that it's not working. Because if we've got this amount of money, we've got this amount of people, there's an amount of people right now who they are adamant that they want their money. They take you guys to court and they continue to win. So where's the strength of your case? Where is the strength coming from? Or how can we continue to strengthen this so that the court case continues to say, okay, you're not able to go to court? How can we strengthen this?
Well, it's perspective, because you're saying that they continue to win. Remember, they went to court because they wanted the court to determine that the trust is to give them monies. That was not determined. The court determined that the trust is for projects, not to pay out cash. And so they did not win that case.
So monies are going because of having to pay lawyer fees?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
And we have spent much more on legal fees for these appearances than we have spent for legal fees for the trust in other things. For example, to put the trustee together, that sort of thing.
Yes.
We have spent more on a lawyer for the claimants.
Yeah. And the thing is that, and also what we actually, in terms of losing the case, was that the unions wanted to include more persons to benefit from the trust, and that is what we actually lost, right? Because the judge said no, you cannot include everyone. It has to be just specifically those that were affected during that period, and that was the portion that we actually lost, if you want to call it lost, right? But it was not that they won anything. It was just that portion. So now we are revisiting the trust deed, right, and making sure that it's in line with the judgment of the court, right, and so that we can now move ahead and make sure that the trust proceed.
Right. A portion of the judgment, from what I recall reading, also included that you do have to still settle this trust deed and get everybody on board. Being entangled in all of this for so long, I think from my reading, it was just concluded in court December of last year.
Yes.
And so we are, what, 6 months, 7 months of freedom of some sort. How has it been going with getting the trust deed settled? When will the actual projects start flowing out of this endeavor?
Well, we're hoping to see the light fairly soon, because after the court judgment, one of the things that came out of the judgment was that mediation was ordered between the parties. And we've been doing that for the past possibly 6 to maybe 8 months or so. And the challenging issues, as I recall, was the composition of the trust, because there are to be 4 trustees. The challenging issues were the composition of the trust and the purpose of the trust. So we thought that the purpose of the trust was for projects. But again, there's that contrary perspective, that the purpose of the trust is to compensate and give people money. So that was our challenge in mediation. Where we are now is that meetings have been set up with the Attorney General, because the government, basically based on the lawsuit, owns the trust. So we're hoping that the meeting next month, will resolve that issue. When that issue has been resolved and a new trust has been formed, then the rollout will start. The first project we envisaged is a definitive listing of all the members, because government gave the unions shares in 1995 to benefit public servants. But government never gave the unions a listing of the public servants who were beneficiaries. That list does not exist. So it's up to the unions now to compile that list.
Right.
So we've gone to several places. We've gone to the Social Security Board. We've gone to government's own staff list, except that for the years in question, there was no staff list. We've gone to the BDF. We've gone to several entities to compile a definitive list. Now, we are kind of advancing that process. But what we also want, when the new trust starts, is that we do a countrywide tour so that we get a picture identification of each beneficiary. So that if you are a beneficiary and we have a picture of you, we could give you an ID, so that with that ID you could benefit from future projects.
Yes, yes.
So we see that as being the first project, this countrywide tour. And then following from that, the other thing that the president spoke about, the health project and the grocery project, those things will be rolled out subsequently.
And I think we have to keep in mind too, as was said earlier, that it's important to note that if we do only projects of that nature, where we are just giving, then we will end up exactly where we don't want to end up.
Yes.
Because, right, the funds will be depleted. And so there has to be some sort of projects or some sort of way that we can invest so that that money could be used then to continue with those projects, because we want them to be long-term. And so it has to be that the trust can generate funds to be able to assist us in continuing with those projects.
Which of course, I would imagine that one of the best projects is actually giving out loans.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Well, except that the judge declared that a loan isn't a project.
Oh.
But then we still hope to do that, because as the president said, if you have a trust fund and you're only spending money and monies aren't coming in, then that trust fund will eventually be depleted.
Yes.
As we speak now, the last audited figures value the trust at just over $8.1 million. Now, if you listen to the other talk shows, you hear figures like $11 million. So I'm not certain where those numbers come from. But the audited figures that we go by value the trust at $8-something million. But of that amount, only $6 million is actual cash. Now, we need now the projects that we have envisaged. These projects involve spending money. You're spending money doing a countrywide tour. You're spending money subsidizing pharmaceuticals. You're spending money on groceries. At some point, some project needs to be undertaken that generates money. Because if you're only spending money and not generating money, the funds will be depleted sooner rather than later.
So where do we see or envision that we will make a project that would eventually have us generate these funds so we could continue with this trust fund?
Well, we would be focused on the loan scheme. We are acknowledging that the judge didn't regard it as a project, but we regard it as an investment.
Yes.
The loan scheme loaned monies to public servants at 5% interest. That's the cheapest money you could borrow in this country. 5% simple interest. No strings attached, nothing like that. Obviously, the rate will have to increase now. But that is what we are envisaging. And that was a hugely successful project because lots of persons borrowed. And the default rate was close to zero because how it was is that if you want to borrow from us, we sign a salary deduction so that the monies come out of your salary
directly
to us.
Directly.
So the default rate was close to zero, and that was extremely popular among beneficiaries. So we hope to revisit that. That's one thing we are looking at.
So we found some sort of success there, and then again we've got this meeting that will be held so everybody could have try to get into so everybody could be on the same page. On being on the same page, there must be a percentage that would say yes, we will. Because trust me, you'll have some folks that would say, hey, jump high, jump low, I want my money, and that's where I stand. So how many, the percentage we're looking for to be on the same page, I'm saying that, or I would say we want 100%. Where are these meetings going to be held, by the way?
Bemapan at the Office of the Attorney General. That's where the first meeting was held last month. And that's where the subsequent meeting will be held.
You're talking about meeting of the trustees or meeting of the beneficiaries?
Meeting of the beneficiaries.
Oh, well.
Because these are the people who we want to buy into the process.
Correct.
Yes.
But in that it would just, as any of our organizations to do, a simple majority. So majority of the members decide that this is what we want, then that is what we go with. And so we have to first determine, as we said, who are those beneficiaries, and then call an AGM of those beneficiaries, so that we can make those decisions.
Yes.
But for now, there are projects that we have in place that we believe that, based on a previous country tour, that suggestions were given to the trustees as to what projects that these persons would want us to do. So those are not things that on our own we say, okay, we want to do this. But I want us to remember, though, that while people are saying that we want projects, while we are trying to work on those, we have all of these other issues going on. These forms being circulated, people being told that you're going to be receiving 10,000 and 8,000 and all of those kinds of things. So people are signing on to these things because they are being told that you will get 8,000. Dr. Cass, what is going, if it is that we were to share up the funds that we have, and not all of those funds we can get right away because some of them are in government coffers. And so to get that from them is going to take another process. So here then I have no money, and so how would we get those monies to share out? But if we were to share out those monies, how much would each person get?
About $400 and something maximum.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
You were close with $250. You were almost there.
So,
I mean,
that would be a one-time.
Collective benefit is actually going to be the name of the game here. To do it as a collective benefit rather than individual benefits.
And these are the things that the beneficiaries out there are not being told, because when these persons go around and give out these forms, they are giving them one side. You will get $8,000 to $10,000 if you sign this form. And so persons sign the form thinking that they will be getting $8,000 to $10,000. From where? From where? Not even $1,000 you're going to be getting, because based on the numbers that we have, who would be beneficiaries. And so it is more practical, it's more helpful,
feasible,
beneficial for you to look at the long-term projects. I mean, imagine getting a project that would pay your annual medical checkup every year.
Yes.
So every year you can go to a doctor, do your entire checkup, and then you would know, okay, what is wrong with me, and then you go from there.
Yes.
We can't pay everything, but we can give an assistance. Imagine going to a pharmacy every year and you get $250 worth of pharmaceuticals every year for the rest of your life, compared to getting $450 one time.
Right.
That's
You
the
take
one
that,
checkup
you,
right
you
there.
go to the grocery, you buy your groceries, you go, that is it. It's done.
One of the things that I want to touch on is with regards to the loans, and those who are issuing these forms. Mainly those who are issuing these forms, I would like to think that they are retired officers, right, or retired public officers. The thing with that is that as retired public officers, it's difficult for them to go to banks and credit unions and so on to access loans. However, they would be able to come to PSWT and get a loan.
Get a loan.
Right? So that's a huge benefit for them. And they are not seeing it. Right? They are not seeing it. And so they have to look at the big picture, right, to see that, look, I can benefit far more from the trust than from getting this $400 payout, right? Because they can access loans to do their little projects and so on. Because then we would take it out, as Dr. Cass said, we just take it out of their pensions, right? And so that's a huge benefit. That in of itself is a huge benefit for me personally. I think that's that's
it
huge.
definitely is. And while time is just winding down from us, just like that, how many people makes up the PSWT?
Beneficiaries. All right. Again, no listing was given to us, but from what we've tried to compile, we think that there are around 12,000 beneficiaries. Because again, the judge ruled that even if you die, their estate is also would also like benefit. So if there are 12,000 beneficiaries, and of that 12,000, let's say maybe I don't know, maybe like 8,000-9,000 are still alive. So those would be the active beneficiaries.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, we do hope that this situation gets rectified as soon as possible. Like you mentioned, one of the projects is actually trying to get a photo ID of these people so we know exactly who we're going to deal with. And time is just dwindling from us. But nonetheless, while we've got Mr. Henry in, the president of the PSU, we know that you've got a mountain to climb as well. And just for an update, what's the situation like right now with your union and the situation there in Belmopan and the city council?
With the hilltop?
Yes.
We are in the process right now of discussing the way forward, right? We have made our members aware of the legal advisors or legal counsel's advice. And their advice is basically, in a nutshell, saying that, look, the risk is far outweighs the possible benefits that you could maybe get fighting this case. We could actually end up paying out a whole heap of money, right? Because we are in default of the agreement that we had with the city council at the time. We didn't make payments, right? We didn't make all our payments. That's one, right? And there are two other issues that we basically failed at with regards to the agreement. So our back is basically against the wall, right? Now the fight for Hilltop is more an emotional battle more than a sensible one, right? And this is what we have to make our members aware that, look, the thing is that we don't go and fight and with a huge possibility of losing, and then we would have to pay their lawyers' fees, the lawyer fees for the...
Your lawyer fee.
Our lawyer fee, their lawyer fee, and the Chinese man who bought the place, because all those fees we'd have to pay, right? And so, and those are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? So it's best to basically move on, right, and find a new place to to call home.
So what I'm actually hearing from you is that we're actually ceding this situation on.
Well, so I think a few of the branches have expressed that, right, that it's best to move on. We are in the process now of getting that buy-in from all of our branches, right? And so that's the process that is taking place right now. The different branch chairs are asking their members what they think about it, right? We already got some feedback from certain branches that, look, man, it's best that we move on, right? But I always prefer to get everyone on board as much as possible, and then we go from there, right? But that's that's the way that it's looking right now. Right?
Alright.
So, and the building really and truly, you know, it's not really worth the fight.
Fighting for.
Yeah, it's best to get something a bit more modern that more suits our needs and so on. So that's what we are looking at.
All right. So Dr. Philip Castillo, Elena Smith, President of BNTU, and Gerald Henry, Jr., President of the Public Service Union. We want to thank you guys so very much, and we do hope that the public sector's workers' trust get on board together, and we continue to move on as one. Thank you so very much for visiting this morning.
All right,
Thank you
too.
for having us. Can we just inform our members that the forms that are going around, that we're asking them not to complete those forms, not to fill them in and send them in, because we will advise them as to the way forward.
All right. Thank you so very much. And when we come back, we will be having in with us for his new musical project, my buddy J. Cass. So we've got some entertainment for you. That's when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back.